Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
This is America's Outdoor Talk program.
Are you ready to get rowdy?
Outdoors This Week with your host, Alex Langer. Alex Langer. We've got fishing.
Believe me, folks, I have been there, and the fishing has been tremendous.
Hiking.
Adios. Have a nice trip.
Camping.
This is a real adventure.
How do you know?
When you're an experienced woodsman like me, you get a feel for these things.
Oh, really?
Heck, we've even got kayaking.
I'm gonna show you kids the time of your life.
We've got all the info you need for a safe and fun day in the sun.
It's a darn good thing we found you when we did. There's something horrible roaming these woods.
And you've got Outdoors This Week. Outdoors This Week. And now, here's your host, Alex Langer.
And it's your guest host from the southern outpost of Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer. This is Rob Doherty. Alex is off on expedition. I believe he's out trying to catch the elusive mahi-mahi. Alex is off. He is fishing. It's always great when he gets to get out and enjoy the outdoors, and he's got folks like me that'll be willing to step in if y'all don't mind the accent. Now, I've got to tell you, we're going to have a great show for you, as we always try to have lined up for you. The next segment, when we come back, we will have the Linder's Angling Edge report, which we always have. Ron Linder will be giving us a report on something. And then we're going to have our regulars. We're going to have Mr. Larry Whiteley come on and give us a Bass Pro Shops update, as he often does. And the segment after that, Sammy Lee, good old jolly Sammy Lee, will be giving us a Tight Lines report. And then Wade Bourne's going to come on and give us the Wade Bourne Wired to Fish report. Those are always interesting. But we're going to have a new guest this hour, and our guest is going to be Mr. Scott Smith. This will be the first time I've ever had Scott on the radio show. But, you know, I think he's going to be an awesome dude. He's well-rounded in the outdoors and sporting side. The only thing is he's up there from y'all's neck of the woods. I hope he can understand everything that I'm saying. I'm sure we'll get through it. But so when I got the chance to talk with him, I said, absolutely, I'd love to talk with him and interview this man. And he is going to be talking with us about fishing, and he's going to be talking to us about bird hunting, which is upland bird hunting, working with dogs. So I look forward to talking with him. And in our next hour of the show, in the second hour of the show, we are going to have Bill Dance with us as our guest. Of course, we'll have all the second updates from everybody else. But Bill Dance is going to come on, and that's always a hoot whenever we have Bill on. And as those of y'all that know me know that you won't be hearing from me for a few weeks after this week's show, and that's because I will be off at Abby Rogers Civitan Camp, a camp for children and adults with cognitive disabilities that I have volunteered for years and years. And guess what I do? I run boating and fishing. So I've got to get everything ready down there to take a bunch of these kids fishing, and that's what I love to do. So it's going to be great. Folks, this is Rob Doherty with the Southern Outpost of Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer. We'll be right back with the Linder's Angling Edge report after these messages. Don't y'all go anywhere.
Hi, folks. Ron Linder here for Seafoam, the world's greatest gas additive. You put it in your boat, you put it in your auger, you put it in your four-wheeler. If you've got anything with gas cylinder indexes, you use Seafoam. It keeps everything running. And also, Linder Angling Edge Television, seen every week on weekend, actually all during the week on the Pursuit Channel. You can see us on the World Fishing Network. You can see us on the Outdoor Channel, as well as a host of the Fox Net programs, depending on where you are in the country. Okay, in a couple of weeks, actually, we are preparing to go to ICAST. This is the Fishing Tackle Industries Trade Show. This year, it's going to be in Orlando, in Florida. Sometimes it used to be in Vegas, which I thought was always a waste of people there, but they didn't show up for the meetings that much. But anyway, it's going to be in Orlando, and what I've noticed is in the last 50 years that I've been in this business, that there's been great change. Back then, they had the shows, and it was the most important thing. This is when they would display their wares. The various companies would show all their stuff for the coming year, and these tackle trade shows were a big deal. Nowadays, it's probably second thought stuff. Most of the stuff that they've got are not unveiled here. They're either unveiled at the Bassmaster Classic, they're done online, they're done at sports shows. I mean, it's all over the place. So it's really, really changed. Actually, a lot of stuff is unveiled on their own websites. So in the old days, we used to go, anybody that was in the industry, you would sit there and walk the aisles. You just see this one, that one, this one, that one. You go see Rapley, you go see Berkeley, which was pure fishing today. And you'd go down and you would see all their stuff and seeing what the new electronics were, and the new rods and new reels and the new line, and whoever had anything new. And the big deal was what's new. Well, they do it a little different nowadays. Now, while they still have this show, it's really post operative, as it were. A lot of stuff is sold already. They've sold stuff to Walmart. They've sold stuff to Bass Pro, Cabela's, all these other stores, the mortar and brick stores, or a lot of stuff that's Tackle Warehouse that's online. They've already went to it. So it's a different world, a totally different world. We've got some products actually right here. We have to, when we make commercials for a lot of these people. And early on, like a year and a half ago, we signed non-disclosure statements when we're shooting their commercials. In other words, we're showing the workings of this thing over here, but our guys and our cameramen got to sign non-disclosure statements that they don't call up whatever the competitor is and tell them, hey, tackle company A is coming out with this new secret lure you ought to know about. No, we get to use them too, by the way. We practice with them. In fact, and I will not even name the name. We were using some stuff here that we found a flaw in. And it was really interesting. I won't even tell you what the company is. You need not to know or even what era was, but we found a major flaw in it, which is interesting because we got to use the thing. They went and had it made overseas. It came over here, and they did not know it was there. We got some of the first usage, and we caught it while we were in the process of making the commercials. What the heck was happening here? And there was a flaw. So it was interesting. Anyway, you're going to be seeing a whole bunch of new stuff now. Not like it used to be. You know, the unveiling of the trade show in the old district, one of the biggest events in all tackledom. Today, it's they dribble the stuff out. You start hearing stuff at the Bassmaster Classic already. You start seeing stuff online on websites. You see on other guys' sites, on these TV shows that play 24/7, 365. You know, you got at some fishing show, Joe the Pro is on hawking sub for somebody on one of the many channels, us included, of course. So you're seeing a lot of this stuff way before the public at large is. But at any rate, it is still an event, and some of the stuff is going to be unveiled. Until then, this is Ron Linder calling in, giving you a report on the goings of the fishing tackle world, and brought to you, of course, by Seafoam, the world's greatest gas additive, and Linder Media and Linder Angling Edge Television. See you later, folks.
Confessions of a Potentially Perfect Parent, brought to you by AdoptUsKids.org.
I don't know how to talk like a parent. Don't make me come back there. You see what I mean? It's pretty awful. Try it again. Don't make me come back there. Now that's pretty good. That one kind of sounded like my dad. Weird.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. Call 1-888-200-4005 or visit AdoptUsKids.org for more information. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Thunder and lightning coming up on Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Have you ever wanted to disappear into the woods? Have you ever wanted to tie your own flies, but never taken the time? Have you ever wanted to speak turkey? Then you belong at Bass Pro Shops. Every week, we offer free skills workshops to help you get started. See the store or go to BassPro.com for more information. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
Thunder is a byproduct of thunderstorms. When a lightning bolt forms, its heat, which can reach 40,000 degrees Fahrenheit, causes the nearby air to violently expand and contract. Now, in the process, sound waves, or what we call thunder, are created. Because light travels much faster than sound, you'll see lightning before you hear the telltale peal of thunder. Since it takes about 5 seconds for thunder to travel 1 mile, you can easily calculate how far away a storm is. When you see a flash of lightning, count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and so on until you hear the thunder. The longer the count, the farther away the storm is. There might be a time when you see the lightning and hear a crash of thunder at the same time. Now that means you've waited too long to get out of the way of the storm. Either get inside or get as close to the ground as you can and stay away from tall, isolated trees. Pay attention to what nature is telling you. I'm Larry Whiteley, and this is Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Thank you, Larry Whiteley. Always a pleasure to hear what you have to say with the Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World Report. One of the things that you mentioned was he was talking about lightning, and in Mississippi, we rank #1 in deaths from lightning strikes. In fact, the last one that we had was a few years ago in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and it happened to be a fisherman because we're too mule-headed to get off the water, I guess. And I have been in a boat when the lake was struck by lightning, and I did feel the jolt. It wasn't a direct hit, but I am now a believer in clearing the water if I can. The only exception is if I'm fishing a tournament. Folks, with me this morning, I told y'all we've got a brand new guest to the radio show, and I look forward to talking with this gentleman. He is from the northeast of the country. I'm from the south. There might be a little bit of a dialect issue. You should be able to understand who's speaking and when. Mr. Scott Smith is with us this morning. How are you doing, Scott?
Very well, thank you. Good morning.
Look, let me tell you what. One of the things that interested me in interviewing you, you work with some great companies. You work with Pure Fishing and Ranger Boats, and you are just widely versed in the outdoors. There's so much we can talk about. This first segment, just kind of want to get folks to get to know you. So tell them what you do with these companies and how you work with them.
Well, my background is in sales and marketing. And my passion and love began with bass fishing and sort of expanded into the saltwater realm and then into upland game hunting. And so in meeting some of these great folks at these companies, it was just a great fit. There was a great synergy. I am able to discuss the features and benefits of their great products and also talk about the outdoors. It's kind of an odd little mix, and I'm really proud to be associated with the great folks at Ranger and at Pure Fishing in Reynolds Marine down in Lyme, Connecticut.
Right. So you rep these companies, you help them with their marketing, and you know what products you got. I mean, Pure Fishing and Ambassador and Ranger Boats. Those are all top names in the industry.
Absolutely. I'm really proud to be associated with all of them. They're best in class in what they do, and they're really best in class folks too. They've been incredibly generous with their help with some of the youth projects that I like to be involved with, and with conservation as well.
Right. Now, and that's one of the things that we'll tease, the youth stuff that you're working at in the next segment, because this segment is our shortest. I wanted to hold over to the next segment, one of the things that you do with the youth. I think it is every bit incumbent upon us as outdoorsmen to get youth involved in our sport. The other night on television, there's a show called Mountain Men, and this guy killed a deer, and he was cleaning the deer. One, he sells the hide. Two, he's going to eat the meat. You know, he's up there in the yak. And they actually had to put a disclaimer on the show because he was butchering a deer. People have no concept of where their meat is coming from. They just know that they get a steak. They have no concept of what's going on. And if we as adults, we as parents, don't get children involved in the outdoor sports, well, I'm looking at it now in the country. I don't know. You tell me what you think, Scott.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I've got an 8-year-old daughter, and we live next to a farm, and she understands and has had to at a young age, where we get our food from, and to that end, buying or managing your own food source to make sure you're getting, knowing what you're eating, knowing what you're putting in your mouth and in your children's mouths. If you were to ask my daughter what you get from a cow, most children will say milk. She'll say steak. And she'll say, she knows where bacon comes from, and she understands. And it's really about the respect for nature, respect for really, I guess to steal a phrase from The Lion King, the circle of life, right? There is still respect for the wildlife, but there is a food chain, and it is important for us to understand both the conservation and where we get our food from.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that, in conservation, we talk about, you're dealing with ranger, you're dealing with pure fishing. And you remember back in the days when the first Bassmaster Classic was held, the push for conservation wasn't there. You've seen the pictures. Bill Dance, our guest, the stringer, holding up the stringer of fish. He's going to be on with us in the next hour. But Ray Scott is a huge conservationist, and what you're going to find is the outdoorsmen are your conservationists because we want to be able to take our children and pass this on to them. So it's important.
You know what? To add to that, I will say that Ray Scott and to another extent Forrest Wood, really in Ranger Boats, the inventors of the aerated live well, were really at the forefront of conserving fish and changing the attitudes about fishing, not just for bass, but for trout and other species. And to this day, we have much better fisheries and greater fishing opportunities because of men like Forrest Wood and Ray Scott.
Absolutely. Scott, we'll be right back after these messages. Don't y'all go anywhere, folks. This is Rob Doherty with the Outdoor This Week program with Alex Langer from the Southern Outpost.
Hold on to that, and that's a good one since 1984. Tight Lines with Sammy Lee.
Do you spend a lot of time out in the sun? Well, if you do, then my next few programs should interest you. Hello, this is Sammy Lee. In just a moment, I'll talk with Dr. Gary Monheit about skin care and how to properly protect your skin while in the sun this summer. But first, this message. You know, the only thing more fun than Tight Lines with Sammy Lee is cool stuff from Tight Lines with Sammy Lee. Visit our website at tightlinesradio.com and check out Sammy's souvenirs. We've got t-shirts, keychains, golf balls, money clips, and all of Sammy's souvenirs come with Sammy's official seal of approval. He only comes around here for the fish. Get yourself some of Sammy's souvenirs online all the time at www.tightlinesradio.com. If you're like me, then it's a pretty good bet that you spend a great deal of time out in the sun while fishing. And for quite some time, I've wondered what, if any, and how much damage is done to my skin while out on the water. So recently I visited with noted dermatologist Dr. Gary Monheit and asked Dr. Monheit to explain to me exactly how many skin cancers there are and how we get them.
Basically, there are 3 kinds of skin cancers that we see, and all 3 of these are related to processes that damage the skin. And the most frequent damaging process we see is sun damage. Sun is not the only damaging process, though there is. X-rays can damage the skin. Heat can damage the skin. In fact, we see among some of the population people who used to sit by the fire all the time, who develop a change in the skin on their shins that leads to skin cancer. People who've worked in steel mills who keep their faces in thermal energy get the same kind of damage as the sun produces. But the biggest problem that we see here with all the outdoor activity and sunlight we have is sun damage.
Well, now you mentioned there are 3 different types of skin cancers.
Yeah.
What are they?
The most common is called the basal cell carcinoma. And basal cell carcinoma.
Well, if you were listening closely, you heard Dr. Monheit say that there are 3 types of skin cancers. What are they, and do anglers run the risk of getting any of them? Well, I'll talk briefly about that after this.
It was a simpler time, a time of hope and faith in the future. People from all walks of life in countries all over the world fell in love with the flying lure. Just a simple fishing lure that does something astounding. Like no other bait, it swims right into the fish's hiding place away from you. Simple, powerful. Go to flyinglure.com. Anyone can learn the simple secrets of catching lunkers with the flying lure. The flying lure's back in town.
On my next program, Dr. Gary Monheit will talk more about skin cancers and how to protect yourself from getting them. So I hope you'll join us. I'm Sammy Lee, and until next time, tight lines.
Tight Lines, brought to you by FishMate,
The ultimate fishing app for your smartphone.
and by UFP.
America's leading maker of brake systems for boat trailers.
If you like Facebook, you'll love the Sammy Lee page on Facebook. Check out me, Sammy Lee, even more lovable than ever on Facebook.com.
Thank you, Sammy Lee. This is Rob Doherty with the Southern Outpost Outdoors This Week. We are back with Scott Smith, who is in marketing for Ranger and Pure Fishing. But that's not all. He is big time into upland game hunting, bird hunting. And one of the things that we kind of discussed before we came on, and this is something that's neat to me. When I was in school, I was one of those guys that was all about hunting and fishing. I wasn't about football, basketball, or baseball. So I really had nothing I had no club. We didn't have clubs like that. Now we were talking about introducing our youth into our sports. Now they are working with high schools, and they have programs to work with bass clubs. And Scott, you work with one of these clubs, don't you?
Yes, I do. New Hampshire is one of the first states in the Northeast to actually to jump in on this, and really following the lead of some of the southern states and getting the idea from seeing what BASS is doing with the collegiate level. And certain athletic directors in some of the towns in New Hampshire have put together high school teams together with the New Hampshire Bass Federation, and gaining just getting some folks to sponsor. And by sponsor, it's as simple as really just getting a day of your time with your bass boat and taking these young men and women out and teaching them a thing or two about bass fishing and helping them with the tournament.
Now, so basically what y'all do is y'all pair up the angler with the boat with the angler that's the high school angler, and they fish a tournament. Are they doing any of the boat control? Like, do you hand over the trolling motor to them and let them make some of the decisions and everything?
Absolutely. And what we typically have is a team. It would be a high school team. Like this fall, I will have be blessed enough to have the 2 folks from Farmington High School in my boat. And other than the big motor driving that I think I will keep control over,
absolutely.
They will absolutely be running the boat, making all the decisions. I can't touch a rod. I can't tell them what to do. It's all completely up to them. I'm really there as the taxi driver.
Okay, so you pretty much stay down behind the console the whole time.
Absolutely, for tournament day, absolutely. Prior to the tournament and during other events that aren't competitions between the high schools, absolutely there's some education going on. But when it's competition time, it's all about the angler.
Right. Now, are you finding that, and I find this, it amazes me and astounds me. I've been bass fishing for 40 plus years and I'm one of those avid, don't even talk to me about using live bait. If I can't do it with artificial bait, I'm not going to do it. But I'm finding these young kids are able to go out there and pick up stuff that took me years to develop and figure out how to do this. It's a YouTube generation. They get on YouTube and they can look up anything, and they're out there competing with some of us that have years and years and years on the water.
It is unbelievable. The learning curve has been shortened so dramatically. The things that I took 15 years and looking at the seasoned veterans and following and watching them, these kids now are lucky enough to be able to your point, get on YouTube. They can learn how to throw a bait caster. I have some 15 and 16-year-old young people throwing a bait caster. It's getting fewer backlashes than I do sometimes.
Right. Well, my 12-year-old can probably he's, as far as accuracy goes, he's right there being able to pitch in buckets and everything with a bait caster. He doesn't have the distance I do, but that's just because I've got more height on him and I can swing it a little bit better. So,
sure, but and these kids, they're so attuned into it. They are so driven. It is amazing to me the focus listen, when I was 14, 15 years old, to have me do anything and be focused at it for 8 hours was darn near impossible. And I will tell you that the focus, drive, and persistence really is astounding, and it's really a testament to their coaches, their athletic directors, and frankly, their parents.
Right, and they're looking at this as a sport. Most of us, when we grew up, we picked up on the fishing, and we just did it because, I take that back. I did fish some tournaments when I was younger, but I really didn't have a concept. It took me several tournaments before I ever placed up where people could even take notice of me, and it took me several more before I ever won one. So, but I mean, these kids, like I said, they come in and they have the knowledge base that's just jump street. They can jump right in and compete, and you saw it the first time you saw it. Do you remember the shock when KVD won his first Bassmaster Classic?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was, who would ever forget that? It was a totally memorable moment in the sport. And now, whenever you see somebody like him, you just expect great things every time out. And I think really he was the guy that started really the incredible younger generation of bass anglers. And I say that, and I think Kevin and I are pretty close to the same age, but back when he won his first, he was definitely really the first of the huge young stars.
Absolutely, and that's like you said. I think he did as much to bring bass fishing to the next generation as anybody did. And you got to admit, the television coverage is getting better and better. We've got about 30 seconds before the music comes to drag us off to the next commercial break. So what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be talking about in the next segment. And that is, I am interested in hearing about upland bird hunting, the upland game that you're doing, and you're dog hunting. And how long have you been doing this?
It's only about 5 years, and it's been kind of like the bass fishing. The learning curve has been shortened due to information on the World Wide Web, and also some great friends and mentors that have helped me a lot, and some great folks that have helped to fix some mistakes I made as a new hunter with a dog, and
awesome.
And it's really split my time in the fall now. It's a new love. I used to live on the bass boat, and now I'm pulled into the woods.
All right. Well, we will be right back after these messages, everybody. Don't y'all go anywhere.
Bluegill are good to eat and fun to catch, and they're also easy to catch in spring when they're in shallow water spawning. By this time of year, most bluegill have moved back to deep water, and they're a lot more difficult to locate. However, if you use John Sloan's method, you can find and catch these feisty band fish right on through summer. I'm Wade Bourne, and this is Wired to Fish Radio. Today, John explains his deep fishing method for summertime bluegill.
More Wired to Fish Radio coming up.
Cabela's is the world's foremost outfitter for hunting, fishing, camping, and outdoor gear. They offer more gear than anybody, best selection, prices, and quality, all backed by Cabela's legendary guarantee. Shopping with Cabela's has never been easier or more convenient. You can outfit all your needs through Cabela's catalogs, website, and their many stores. Check them out at Cabela's.com. Cabela's, the world's foremost outfitter. For over 50 years, the rattle trap has been America's favorite lure for catching bass, walleye, muskies, panfish, you name it. If a fish eats minnows, it'll bite a rattle trap. Rattle Trap's legendary action and sound are built in. Just cast it out, start reeling, and hold on. In fact, Outdoor Life magazine named the Rattle Trap the most influential fishing lure of all time. So look for Rattle Traps in tackle stores all over America or shop on the web at www.rattletrap.com.
This is Wired to Fish Radio.
Outdoor writer John Sloan loves to catch bluegill, and he also loves to fillet them and fry the little bite-sized fillets in hot peanut oil. He says there's no better fish fry. Now, John adds that by this time of year, most bluegill have left the shallows and moved back to deep structure. And here's how he finds and catches them.
The easiest way to catch them is live bait, crickets. And the way we catch them, and we catch them up to 30 feet deep. We'll put a 1/4 ounce bullet worm weight on the line, and then a split shot under it just to hold it in place about a foot above the hook. And then we'll bait a cricket and drop it off the front of the boat and start on the bottom and work up until we catch one. And that'll tell us about what depth they're in, and we'll just move up and down the bank fishing at depth.
John Sloan continues that anglers should fish along drop-offs and bluff banks with this method, and they have to be persistent. Summer fishing for bluegill is different from fishing during spring.
Once they move out to deep water, you may not sit in one spot and catch 100 brim, but you can stay in that same depth and move up and down the bank and pick up 2 here, 3 there, and pretty soon you've got an ice chest full.
So you follow this advice from John Sloan, and soon you'll be cashing in on this great opportunity for catching bluegill right on through the hottest part of summer. And that's today's Wired to Fish Radio. I'm Wade Bourne saying thanks for listening and get outside.
Thank you, Wade Bourne. This is Rob Doherty with the Southern Outpost Outdoors this week with Alex Langer, and we are back on with Scott Smith. And we've been talking about competitive fishing on the high school level. We've talked about Ranger boats. And I'm like, God, this guy is just a great guest because I can talk to him about just about anything. You've taken up to upland game hunting. Explain what exactly you're talking about. What birds are you hunting for, and how are you doing it?
Well, it's up here in New Hampshire and really in most of New England and a great part of the country. Upland game. The critters that we're stalking after typically here would be woodcock, ruffed grouse. Up in Maine, there are spruce grouse. There's an occasional bobbed white quail, and we don't really have a viable pheasant population anymore. They're stocked birds, but there still be some pheasant around. I have had occasion to be lucky enough to go to South Dakota for some wild pheasant hunting, and that was an incredible experience. But the upland game here, the wild birds in central lakes region of New Hampshire and north, are basically the native, the population that lives here year round are the grouse, and the migratory ones are the woodcock. They will fly from their nesting grounds from New Hampshire to Newfoundland, all the way down to Georgia, Mississippi. You probably have a few woodcock right down where
Yes.
you are in certain times of the year. And
we do.
The neatest part about it really is being out in the woods. A ton of exercise, by the way. You can do 20, 25 miles in a day. But my absolute favorite is the dogs. Watching the dogs having so much fun and getting on a scent and working and pointing and flushing these birds is just a magical experience if anybody hasn't experienced it. It is, I take my dogs out in the summer, and I have just about as much fun watching them just flush wild birds during summer and the off season as I do hunting. And frankly, in the summer, I can at least come home and tell my family, yep, we had a great day of hunting, and I didn't have to worry about how good a shot I was. So, because there are definitely times in the fall where, the hunting's great, but the shooting was a bit lacking. So basically, we start doing that in October, go through till when the snow is too deep or it gets too cold and the woodcock migrates south.
All right, now you've got grouse up there where I am in South Mississippi. You said you have a few bob white. That's primarily the upland birds that we hunt. So, and I had the benefit as a boy and didn't realize, not all boys were able to do this. I had one of my mentors in the outdoors that always had dogs, and we'd go out and we would quail hunt all the time, and it was just but due to lack of habitat for the quail, the populations, we don't have the coveys that we used to. The patchwork 20-acre, 15-acre mom and pop farms with the fence rows that the quail would use, those fence rows like highways, are giving way to people that are mega farming, buying all these farms up and making one big farm ground, or they're falling prey to becoming a chocker block neighborhood where all the houses look the same. And they call that progress. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the reason why my wife and I moved from Massachusetts up north into the Lakes region of New Hampshire. We live at the end of a long road with I see grouse in my yard on a daily basis, and we've got a whole bunch of resident woodcock that just live here until it freezes, and deer and moose, of course. And it's nice to know that I've got all that acreage behind the house that, for the most part, it's going to stay that way for probably my lifetime and hopefully many more.
Right. Well, and it's just you were teaching your 8-year-old daughter more about life. I'm a firm believer the further detached you get away from what it takes to feed, the more ignorant people become. They focus on the wrong stuff,
Exactly. And she, last fall was her first fall when I was going to wait for her to ask, and she said, can I go hunting with you? And I said, well, you don't shoot yet, but I think we could probably throw a big giant orange vest on you, and you can come stand next to Daddy and watch Ben the dog work. And she did, and she loved it. She had a ball. She really loved being in the outdoors. She loved to ask a lot of questions. And, I look forward to the time when I can get her through the hunter safety course and actually, take my girl on a real hunt.
Absolutely. And I commend you for doing that, Scott. It's great that you are bringing that next generation into the outdoors, and can't thank folks like you enough. And that's one of the things that I used to talk about. That's one of the reasons why I started doing those kids tournaments. These kids, they're being babysat by Nintendo and VHS tapes, and that's just not the way to do it. Look, we are about to close up. We've got about 30 seconds. Give a shout out to all your sponsors and all the companies that you're working for one more time, and we'll close out this hour.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And, of course, I want to thank Ranger Boats, Pure Fishing, Gray's Outfitters in Caratunk, Maine, and Northern Bass Supply for all their support and generosity with youth and conservation.
Awesome. All right, Scott, thank you so much. Folks, this is Rob Doherty with the Southern Outpost of Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer. We will be right back for the next hour of the show, when our guest is going to be Mr. Bill Dance. So y'all tune in. For the rest of y'all, have a great week.